There is a lot of confusion around crouching inside of Counter-Strike 2, and in the past you may have heard people telling you to stop crouching, it's bad for you, but today I'm going to dispel all the myths. I'm going to explain to you exactly how to utilize crouching in the best way possible inside of this game, because it is one of the most important skills that you can learn inside of Counter-Strike. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first thing that you need to understand about crouching is actually the negatives, because there is some truth that crouching can be bad, right? And a lot of times you might hear that it's bad because newer players, they try to walk around the map crouching way too much, right? So the first thing you need to understand is don't crouch walk like this. Don't, crab walk or whatever you want to call it, because it is just not worth it, right? You're not going to have any benefit doing that versus just shift walking. So shift walking should always be the priority over crab or crouch walking. It's just not very good. Also, understand that when you are taking fights, and we're going to get into how it is good, when you are crouched, you cannot move as fast, right? So if we commit to a fight and we're crouched, if we don't move or do anything, our hitbox is very easy to hit because we are in one solid position. It's very easy for them to track you, and especially if you're facing it off against like pistols and other things, when they're running around, they're moving around, it is detrimental to you to ever be sitting down crouched, right? So in general, especially when I'm facing off against pistols, SMGs, high movement guns, I am making sure that, if I am crouched, it's only for a little bit, because if I'm just sitting in that spot, they're going to be running around and it's just not fun to take that fight. It's not good for us. It's not beneficial, and we want to avoid that at all costs. Now, before we get into the good things about crouching and how to really abuse the Counter-Strike 2 meta with this crouching feature, I have to give you a message from the sponsor of today's video. Thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Skins Monkey. They are one of the greatest and easiest to use CS2 trading sites out there. You can swap out the skins you do not like for brand new ones that are so much more fresh. Even skins that are trade locked can be secured by adding them to your backpack. The greatest thing about the site is that you can buy skins for so much cheaper with a 35% deposit bonus when you use my code, KOJO. Make sure to check out the freebie section where you can get a free skin just by completing tasks. On top of the bonuses, you also get a $5 bonus when clicking the link in the description. Alright guys, so let's go over the most basic reason why you should be crouching first, and that is for visibility, right? In Counter-Strike 2, if obviously when you're crouched, you're moving your view model, your player model down. So if you're holding this position on ramp, if they walk out on you, they're going to see you, right? But if we're crouched and then we peek up like this, we can catch them off with some surprising movement and train ourselves. So all we do is keep our crosshair where we want to put it, right here, crouch, and then boom. And then if we have to adjust, we can. My favorite place to utilize this is over on B. So we can actually jump spot, in quotes, jump spot, because this is the best way to do it. And this is how you should be doing it right now. You just spot B like this. So crouching can be very beneficial when we will not hide our head in certain moments. And it is, obviously really beneficial to do something like this. Now, a lot of times in fights and engagements too, you might have to crouch to get out of danger. So we might be shooting up somebody CT here and we start getting shot from behind. So naturally, if you can get good at crouching and getting out of danger, it's a very good tool to learn, and very effective, right? And that has nothing to do with even gunfights or anything like that. That's purely just training your movement and getting yourself subconsciously to think like that. I saw Mobs doing this in my pugs all the time too. When he's fighting these like angles, he'll actually come up here and just like pre-fire, and he's so much better than me, so rifling especially. So it's hard for me to do that, but he is so good at doing these little peaks like this, utilizing crouch, not using. So good, guys. But ultimately, very effective way to use it. Let's get on to gunfights now. So in gunfights, the main reason why people use crouch is because it actually makes your recoil so much tighter. It's something we've talked about on this channel many times. It's something that is very obvious, but this recoil control can be the difference between you getting a frag and not getting a frag, right? That tighter bullet spread is everything in these battles and engagements. But my favorite reason to crouch in a gunfight is actually because if we look at the spray pattern, the first bullets just go straight up. So if we can think about that and understand that when we crouch, our crosshair moves down, I love it, because if I'm shooting somebody, all I have to do is crouch and my bullets naturally go down, so I don't have to worry about pulling down. And this is something you're gonna have to get into a server and just practice yourself, just shooting the first bullets and crouching while you do it, because it is a hard movement to learn, but when it becomes second nature, Oh, it's so good and it works so effectively. And the added benefit is when they are looking at you, if they're trying to engage you as well, your player model dips down, right? You crouch. So if they were going to shoot you in the head, now you crouched and you might matrix a bullet and actually save your life by doing that. But as we mentioned earlier, guys, that isn't good enough, right? So that's not good enough to just be crouched because, again, you're very static. And if I'm just taking a fight on multiple people and I'm just crouched like this, guys, I'm gonna die, right? We want to prolong our life as long as possible and make the shot that the enemies have to hit as hard as possible. So the most effective way to utilize this crouching in these gunfights is when we're taking these fights to move to one side, right? So all you've got to do is practice getting in a server and moving to one side first, right? So if we're fighting triple, we're just going to practice crouching and moving to the right. Vice versa, we can shoot the other side of the box here and crouch to the left if we want it. But just get good at understanding how to control your spray, how to do this while you're crouching, because that little extra movement is everything, right? And the most effective way to use this movement is, you know, if we're taking fights and they start scaling up mid multiple people, or we just don't like the way the fight's going, if we're crouching towards the wall, now we can reset and get behind cover, right? So you don't really want to go into the open. That's not the most effective thing to do. Wherever you're at, if you can just like, okay, we're jiggling it. Oh, he caught us off and we start falling back to the right side. Boom, we either kill him or we stay alive, and it's very good. And from his perspective, instead of us just being in one spot crouched, now he has to try to trace us, right? So we're in the open. Now he has to try to move us across here to the left. And when you're thinking about so many things around, when you're caught off guard, this can be the difference between you fragging out and you getting insta, right? You just getting instantly killed. So it's something that a lot of new players don't utilize, which brings me on to an extremely high level pro tip. And that is going to be utilizing crouch and uncrouch in the middle of your sprays. This is by far like one of the coolest things you can do. And I've done it many times in these games, is utilizing uncrouching, crouching, uncrouching in the middle of your battle. It's really hard to train this, and it comes with time, and you really have to train your strafes too, because the whole point of this is we're bobbing our head up and down, we're moving left to the right in the middle of the spray battle, because we can actually be pretty accurate while we're moving inside a Counter-Strike as long as our movement speed is very close to 0. And the AK is pretty inaccurate, to be honest, but especially with the A1S, if you can get good at this crouching, uncrouching, you know, doing these little sprays, you're going to be so successful, right? And obviously don't be afraid, don't be discouraged when you see some bullets are missing, especially because I'm talking here and trying to explain this to you guys. Don't be discouraged when you see that, because that's just natural, right? You're gonna see a lot of these bullets not hitting where they should be, and it's about just understanding if we can get the majority of them to land where we want. Because if we can be dynamic, if we can understand how to utilize crouching in an effective manner, it will be the night and day difference between us being great riflers and bad riflers, right? Quickly, we're gonna loop back to the beginning here. Also, I forgot to mention, one of the times you should pretty much never be crouching, this goes back to what we said earlier, is when you have pistols or MP9s. Very rarely, unless you are trying to line up a precision shot on somebody that's not looking at you, of course, crouch, because then you're fully accurate. Compared to if you're standing, there's a little bit of inaccuracy. But in general, when we have pistols and high movement speed weapons where we want to be running around, crouching is not ideal. Tech 9s are a prime example of this. With a Tech 9, you want to take advantage of the run and gun aspect of it. You don't want to be sitting there and going, oh yeah, like this. There's a time and place for everything, obviously, but in general, just think about that when you're using the SMGs, the pistols, all that kind of stuff. Now, a really cool way we can utilize crouching is actually with the op. So I'm going to teach you something called the crouch peek. So the crouch peek is extremely effective with the op, because when we go to peek an angle, say we're trying to pre-fire and kill someone there, if we utilize this crouching feature, our player model is actually shifting down and to the right. So I'm strafing right with D and I'm crouching as I strafe. And then I might use A to counter-strike back over. But the movement that our player is using is so good. And this is how we can pre-fire people, right? Especially if they don't know you're opping, the beauty of it is they're going to be holding an angle like you are a rifler. You know, and try and get that headshot angle. So when your player model is crouching down in the middle of you peeking, it's so hard to deal with, right? And obviously you can always get punished if someone hits a nice shot, whatever, you know, they hit a nice shot. But genuinely, it's one of the best ways to, you know, peek an angle and do these kind of things. Little bonus here at the end. One way you can utilize crouching is actually to jump high on certain boxes. Like this one, we can't jump up normally, but if we use crouch as we're jumping, and of course we're messing it up because we're stuck, boom, now we can get up here, right? All because we use crouch to jump up and do that. It's super effective, super good. This box over here is another prime example. So some of these high boxes that we can't do this normally, literally just crouching solves everything. So don't be afraid to use crouch. It's definitely an effective button. Just don't become a noob and sit in one spot while you use it, and try your best to stay active when you can and utilize it in a way that will increase your movement, which is funny because it's something that decreases it. But I'm just rambling now, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on, and leave a comment down below what your favorite weapon is inside of Counter-Strike 2. I want to see if we have some AK enjoyers, some oppers, what we got going on. So appreciate every single one of you. I'll catch you all later. Peace out. Peace out.